Are you dreading your next home repair? Don't. Crew Pros is your one-call solution for everything your home needs. Whether it's heating and air, plumbing, complete roof replacement, whole home generators, and electrical repairs. Our professionals get the job done right. Crew Pros is your single source for high-quality home services at affordable prices. For everything your home needs, Crew Pros. Remodel, repair, replace.
Memphis. Nothing but Memphis. Everywhere we go, it's Memphis. Memphis, Tennessee, the beautiful land in the world.
And I'm thankful for this guy who tweeted and said I don't have that fire in my eyes no more. That game right there was for him. That's what I do. I prove people wrong each and every night, and that's for him right there.
Hi, this is Tom Izzo at Michigan State, and you're listening to Grizz 901.
What up, Grizz Nation, and welcome back to another episode of Grizz 901. We are presented by the good people over at Zach Jaworski State Farm, where they treat you like family. If you can't tell, we got a new look. Same old people. I will be your host as always. We're going to get you through your Tuesday night. Before we do that, you know who we got to bring in. All right, Nate, we got the glasses on. The hair is cut. It's spiked. It's looking good, man. I like it. Oh, no, you're on mute.
Oh, no. For one time, I actually muted myself. I didn't have to get muted by you. Oh, I was just saying thank you. That makes me feel really good inside.
Yeah, man. No, like the new the banner at the bottom. I think it looks good.
I got a new look. The show got a new look. We're rolling today.
Big things coming, man. We're gonna have a lot of fun tonight, as we always do. If you could be a friend, tell a friend. We're gonna be live during the off season on Tuesdays at 8:00. You can catch us on Spotify, Apple, wherever you can listen to podcasts. We'll be there as soon as this show ends. We'll kind of cut it up and send it out to the various places you can actually listen to the podcast. But that has been doing really well. This podcast has still been doing really well, even in the off season. Tonight, we have three things that we want to hit on. And this is all about being an armchair GM. This is what you wanted to hit on, Nate, last week, but I kind of slowed you down a little bit. I said we need to put a bow on the season. But this tonight is all about being a GM. We're going to tell you what we think the front office is saying, reading the tea leaves a little bit and trying to find out what the direction is that the front office is going to go. And then we've been digging through all of social media, and we have found what the fans are saying. We gave you a little bit of social media shenanigans last week. Well, this week, we're going to tell you a little bit about what everybody's thinking when it comes down to trades, maybe free agency, maybe just straight craziness. But after that, we're going to give you our portion, what's coming off of the dome, and we're going to give you that. But that's going to be the last thing. And so let's go ahead and get into it. Anything that you got before we completely get started and go straight into the front office?
Yeah, I underestimated how busy I was going to be when I needed to prep for this episode. So I did some last minute digging and got some stuff done, but I don't have nearly the breadth of info I was hoping I would have coming into this. But we got some good stuff coming up. Yep. So excited to talk about it a little bit.
No, 100%. And the good thing about all this is we have so much more to do in the off season. Like, this is just the beginning, right? This is just the start. This is the tip of the iceberg. But let's go ahead and not wait any further. Let's go ahead and get into what the front office is saying. So what are the front office moves? What are you thinking that they're thinking? Because we're trying to read their mind right now. So what do you think that they are going to do and look at kind of going into this offseason?
We need someone who's not going to take as many shots based off initial reports. I think we talked about this a little bit last week, but right. I mean, the main thing has got to be finding a Dillon replacement. That's priority number one, right? Yeah. And I mean, interestingly enough, we still haven't heard anything from the Grizzlies directly about Dillon, anything directly from Dillon about Dillon. So I guess technically that could still be up in the air, but he's not coming back. So you got to find who you're going to replace him with. And I mean, the number one guy has got to be OG Anunoby. There's no question about that. He's the number one gettable guy. I think they'd call Brooklyn, see if there's anything that can happen for Bridges. But I mean, you have a tale of 2 post-trade deadlines when you come with OG and Mikal Bridges, because Mikal Bridges, the stock, I mean, it was like Tesla stock, just skyrocketed. And then OG was like that other time with Tesla stock where it completely plummeted, right? And, OG himself didn't plummet, but the Raptors and their ability to negotiate, I think, plummeted after that season.
Yeah.
There's Fred VanVleet looks like he's primed to leave. Siakam doesn't seem like he's the star they want him to be, and they just don't have all the bargaining power anymore.
You think the Raptors blow it up? They just fired their coach.
There's a good chance. It's as good a time as any. Masai doesn't strike me as a blow it up guy, though.
Okay.
But it's sort of like they kind of put themselves in a weird in between spot. I think they probably blow it up while they still have a chance, because they're running out of time to do that, right? They're going to be stuck in the middle if they don't. So I think so. Gary Trent Jr. is going to be available. There's a lot of things you could do with the Raptors. So I think OG is number 1 on that list, which we'll get in this a little bit later. Some people took it last week as I hate OG Anunoby, which is not what was stated. What was stated was I don't want them to pay even more for OG Anunoby now than what they were willing to offer at the trade deadline, because it makes zero sense to do that. And then you handicap yourself with what you're able to bring in outside of just OG. So we'll get into all that later.
Sean, you hear it? Write that down. Take that quote, Sean.
Trust me, there's plenty of people who are like, why would you not want OG? And I'm like, dude, that's not that I don't want him.
All right, let me lay it out a little bit of just giving you a little bit of backstory and about this offseason and kind of what we're looking at. The Grizzlies, they have 3 draft picks, right? 3 draft picks. That's going to be the first round pick that they have of theirs. They have the 25th pick, and then they have the 45th, which is the Minnesota's pick. And then they had their 56th pick, which is another second rounder. So 2 second rounders. That's the 56th pick. So 2 second rounders and a first rounder this year. Kleiman talked a lot about, was it smart to go all in on the youth, right? And so that's the question, right? That's what's kind of surrounding this offseason is, as Dak Daniels just said, should we take 0 players in the draft? I think that might be a bad decision to take 0, but I think what we should do is we can somehow trade in further into the first round. I'm fine with that. I would also be fine with taking a flyer if you want to send somebody down on to the G League for the most sense. You're talking about somebody who has super potential that you're going to go ahead and get somebody now because you can stow them away for a year and even 2 years. But that is if you can't trade up into the draft, but also, dude, trade into the next year's draft. Like, can you get into next year's draft? Okay. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking of because, because you're thinking of Ja is now getting paid. Jaren is getting paid. And obviously Desmond Bane is about to get paid. You're going to have 3 guys that are getting paid. Everybody wants to go get another guy that's going to be making 20 to 25 million. That'd be 4 guys making over 20 to 25 million on this team. You then need those guys that are cheaper, that have that honestly that can help you and be those fillers, right? The fill gap players, those youth, the youth guys, the rookies. You're going to need that, and they have shown they can hit high ceiling players 100%. And so I feel like this offseason is the most important because they could actually make those moves and then fill the gaps with those down the road. Yep. Now, what were you going to say till you rudely interrupted me?
Well, that's what I do best. And what I was going to bring up is we're talking about the draft. I have 0 interest in drafting for the Grizzlies. I don't care if they draft anybody whatsoever because they already have so many young players. You got to get rid of these guys if you're going to bring in any new guys. So is there going to be anyone that is good enough that you say, hey, we want to bring this guy in, so we're going to deliberately get rid of guys? But all that to say, so talking about the draft, I don't think that's a concern at all for the Grizzlies right now, other than how they can best use those picks to manipulate trades. I want to hear from you your main priorities for the front office listed out, because I have mine here, and I think we hit on the same two. We have the top two that are must-haves. Do you have anything after the two that we mentioned? Because mine are number one's Dillon replacement. Got to have it. You can't go without a Dillon replacement. Number two is getting vets.
Yeah,
at least a vet that is a contributing vet on this team. I think those are two must-haves. After that, I put three as shooting, which you would hope you bring in with Dillon replacement and that vet or that vet. But four, I put as another true big, like a truly big size big. I don't think they get to that, to be honest. And I don't think it's a major priority. But if I had to list out priorities, it would be those in that order, with the two real ones that have to happen being Dillon replacement and vet.
Yeah. No, I think if you had to, say I need two, I would say 100%. You need somebody to be a ball stop player, like such on the defensive end, somebody who can defend really well. But I also think you need to have shooting. And I think those are obviously those are two important things to me, because I think that Jaren is great. I think he's all world defensively, man. I think he can be awesome. But if he's not in the right role, then I think that he will struggle at times. I don't think he's an amazing one-on-one defender. I think he's great. I think he's best when he can kind of be a free safety in a sense. And so that's kind of what, you need somebody to be the bulldog a little bit, such as Dillon was. But obviously shooting, all that, yes, all that's important. Looking at these playoffs, dude, they need veterans. They need people that they can depend on. The problem is they have 16 guys under contract. Two of those are on two-way G League deals, right? So you're talking about 14 on the main roster right now, like under contract. That is very tough. I have it all here in front of me and what everybody's getting paid. But it's just, man, it's going to be very, very tough for them to make moves, for the simple fact that the only person that people in general want to have traded is Tyus Jones. Not because Tyus is terrible. Tyus is a very good regular season point guard.
He could be a good playoff point guard if he's the starting point guard for
correct,
somebody.
But he's not on this team.
Right.
And so you have to go get the value while you can. As Dak Daniels said, you got to go get the value, right? The offseason is the time to go get it. He's proven himself. He should be moved on. Go get what you can and use him as your weapon to go get that next best player to make you the best as you possibly can be. And so I think it's going to be very tough for them to make some moves, and we're going to have to part with some guys that we never thought we would have. But I think this team is willing to make some moves this offseason because they have to. They really do. And I think they've seen it now watching playoffs. I think they've seen it watching this team. I think this team is currently constructed, and tell me if I'm right or wrong. I'm probably right. If this team, as currently constructed, without Dillon Brooks, the 14 people on the main roster, could they go out and be a 45-win team?
45. There's a chance. There's a chance they could do 45 in the regular season.
Exactly.
They're destroyed in the playoffs, though.
Exactly, though. That's the difference. And that's what I want people to understand. There's two different things. There's a playoff team, and then there's a regular season team. This team is very good. This is a very good regular season team. But we got to figure out how to get them to the playoffs. Anything you want to hit on? I'll have some free agents I want to talk about before we move into what the fans are saying. But what front office moves do you want to hit on before we move on?
That's really it. I think I want to reemphasize the need for veterans, because I feel like that's sort of gotten lost in the shuffle of the shiny penny of OG Anunoby. We talked about what fans were saying, yada, yada, yada. The only thing I've really seen much of is OG Anunoby. There's little stuff here and there, but the consensus is OG Anunoby for a good reason. He is the best Dillon Brooks replacement that is conceivably on the market. And so it makes a ton of sense. I think that if they go get him, they're going to be between a rock and a hard place. So I'm trying to go find vets that they can bring in with and actually have that to round out your team while still being able to keep your Dillon replacement if it's OG Anunoby. We'll get into that money-wise coming up. But the thing I want to talk about before we get into, do you want to talk about free agents, trade targets, or mix them together?
I'd say mix them together. Okay. I have a whole list that I've kind of made out in a sense.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but on that thread, who is untouchable to you?
On this team?
Mm-hmm.
Jaren Bane, I would say, are untouchables. And the only reason, the caveat that we talked about prior to this a few days ago, Bane is making – 1 second. Bane is making less than Zaire Williams this upcoming season. He's making $3.8 million, okay? So Bane is making 3.8. He will do nothing for you in a trade except for if you do a 3 or 4 team deal, like our guy Chris Ingram tries to cook up.
He cooks them.
He does cook them. So that's the only way that you can get off of Bane and bring in another guy like a Jaylen Brown, who I know you talked about many times. That's the only way that you can move off of Bane, because you don't have enough going out in Bane. Like, he is making little to nothing this year. So really adding him into a trade is going to be very, very tough because then you're going to have to give up Tyus probably, right, to make money meet somehow. And then you're going to give up picks just to, it's very tough, right? So,
I'd say Dez is borderline untouchable.
Yes.
Like, he's only involved in things if you're getting like the guy you can't say no to, like a KD type guy, right? So we agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. I just wanted to set that going forward. All right, let's talk about that.
All right, so I'm going to hit on free agents then, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, free agents. Guys that I'm looking at that are vets, right? I think that the front office, these are the front office type players I think that, we all as fans, I think would like. There are other names out there. These are the ones that I've kind of looked at. Harrison Barnes. These are all these 3 are unrestricted. These 4 are unrestricted free agents. They do have bird rights to their team. That matters nothing to us. Harrison Barnes, Jeremy Grant, Karis LeVert, and Seth Curry. All are unrestricted free agents. Those all 3 can shoot. I think those all are pretty good players. They're decent vets. I don't know about Seth Curry being a vet, but I think the other 3 can be, pretty decent level vets depending on what you're having to pay them. Guys that have player options that they might opt in, we don't know yet. Gary Trent Jr., Jordan Clarkson, and Cam Johnson. Not him. Dante DiVincenzo. He's got a player option as well. His is like 4.7, so he could actually go get more. And the Golden State Warriors probably don't want him because honestly, they're already over the cap already, right? They don't need any more. They don't need anybody else opting in. Cam Johnson is a restricted free agent. He does have a qualifying offer of 8.4 right now. And so whatever the Grizzlies want to pay, the Brooklyn Nets can match if they want to keep him. So those are just some guys that I'm looking at that I think the front office would like.
Yep. And I don't disagree with any of those. So when you talked about who is it, Barnes, Grant, and who was that third one?
LeVert.
LeVert. Yeah, no, I'm good. Don't need Karis LeVert on this team. Too much of a shot chucker for a team that doesn't want to have a shot chucker, right? Who can get on an absolute heater and has a good history in FedEx Forum. Let
me back up before you move on Karis LeVert type player. I think what the front office is going to look for this year is I think they're going to move off of a guy like Tyus, right? We talked about. I think you can move Tyus and whoever else you want to move to go get the guy who can be a starter for you. I think then if you can land a free agent such as a Karis LeVert to be your ball handler, to be your guy that is your backup point guard, I think that's important to come off the second unit. You're talking about a guy who is not going to be in the starting rotation. He can run alongside Ja. I think that a guy like Karis LeVert, I think he has potential.
There's potential, but I think he's proven everywhere he's been. Well, since he had the heart issue, right? I think everywhere he's been super hit or miss, which I don't know why you would want that coming off the bench when you can use a bank and our combo you have. And you can go get someone like I would much rather have Jeremy Grant. I think a lot of people would much rather have Jeremy Grant. But obviously. I don't think that the payday is going to be that crazy different where you would settle when you could go get a Jeremy Grant, right? And Jeremy Grant can consistently create a shot, consistently knock down those threes. I trust him more. And you're going to have the committee between Bane, Kennard, and it's available off the bench as long as they keep both those guys, right? So I just don't think LeVert fits best what they need. And there's other guys that will be available for similar price ranges that they could get that would fit better, like Jeremy Grant, for example. And Harrison Barnes isn't going to fill that point guard type role, but he fills the vet role and the 3-and-D role.
I love
super
Harrison
well,
Barnes.
right? And I'd say his value has gone down. He's getting old.
Yeah. Hey, one thing on that. All right. So, and this is we're literally just swimming and we're randomly just going different places. And we see a fish over here. There's a squirrel over here. This is kind of what I feel like we're doing right now. But on these free agents, okay, the Grizzlies, they don't have a ton of room in cap space, right, to bring on sign somebody for a lot of money, right? They don't have many spots open on their team. So they're going to have to package a few guys to potentially bring back one. And then you have the potential to, they have like the mid-level, which is $12.5 million. Like who's going to fit in that? Man,
Dante DiVincenzo, perfect candidate for that.
I think he's going to be less than that. I don't know if you split that in half at that point. I think that's still dumb. I would say if somebody that can fill that full 12.5, listen, there's so many different directions they can go. I think once you have one thing kind of just start rolling, and then all of a sudden the snowball can start going, and then a lot of things can take place. But yeah, there's so many. Zach Hyman's got his hands full. We'll just say that.
Yeah, by a lot. There's a lot going on. But all those guys, like I think Harrison Barnes probably makes the most sense. I mean, at mid-level, he's probably going to cost more than that, wouldn't you say?
I would think so. I think he's going to be at probably 15 to 18.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. So I don't think you could get him with the mid-level, but he makes a lot of sense money-wise, depending on what they do with the Dillon replacement. But they're going to have to come off a lot of these young contracts. I mean,
can we just sign and trade Dillon for Harrison?
I mean, sure. Why not? No, he could fit that role, but he doesn't. At this stage of his career, I don't think he brings enough 3 or D to really be what they're looking for in that replacement, right?
All right, real quick. Edward Wilcox, he said it twice. Lonnie Walker. All right, Lonnie Walker had a good game the other night. Okay.
I like Lonnie Walker. I liked him before last night. I don't like if you're looking for a spark plug guy off the bench just looking for a prove it deal. Let's do it.
Would you rather have Lonnie Walker or David Roddy?
I mean, that's not fair.
I'm asking the question.
I know, and that's like I'm not even close to being prepared to make an unbiased response to that. Like it's David Roddy. Like
that's the issue.
David Roddy.
Well, and that's the issue with some of these guys that like I think like Lonnie Walker, a 1-year deal. Yes, somebody who can fill a need. That's all great. The issue is I think of who do I want playing? Lonnie Walker, David Roddy. Okay. Okay. Do I want Lonnie Walker or Zaire Williams? I probably want to go with Zaire right now. That's just the truth. Like, do I want Luke Kennard or Lonnie Walker? Like, eventually there needs to be upgrades. I think we have enough mid players. Like, they are just fine. They're okay. They're not going to kill you, but they can't win you playoff games. I know that is probably, foot and mouth right now with Lonnie Walker because he just did that last night. But I just don't think that we need to keep doing this limited talent players. I think we got to go all in somehow, some way. Anyway, all right. What do you think before we move on? Because I think we've kind of hit on this and we kind of just moved around. We have so much we're going to go into, but I want to hit on the fan stuff and then let's give our fresh perspectives on what we think they do.
The fan stuff. What are you talking about?
Yeah, what the fans are saying.
I don't know. I'm not a fan. It's the off season. I'm just playing. I haven't been on Twitter all that much. The only thing I've been on Twitter for is to do my yearly thumping for them to change the Navy jerseys to that city edition. That's all I really get on Twitter for. The only thing I've seen really is Anunoby. I saw maybe Chris. I can't remember. Somebody talking about Gary Trent Jr.
All right, listen. So
OG Anunoby's the big one.
All right, because you're a complete idiot. That's what we're going to talk about. And we actually already talked about it prior to this a couple of days ago. let's go ahead and get into what the fans are saying and who they're wanting. We've all seen the different polls that everybody's thinking of, and like, hey, who should the Grizzlies go get this offseason? And it's always four guys. It's always Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby,
Jaylen Brown.
It's Jeremy Grant. And who's the last one? Who am I forgetting about? I don't know.
Cam Johnson.
Cam Johnson. Thank you. Cam Johnson. Those are the four big names. So out of those four, who's the most realistic?
Probably OG. But, I mean, they're all realistic in a way. I just don't see – like, I think the Grizzlies want – that's hilarious. I think the Grizzlies want to bring in a defensive-minded guy to replace Dillon because that's what he was for this team, and they don't want to leave that void unfilled. So I lean towards OG. I mean, you can get Cam Johnson most likely for cheaper, and you can do that, and you can probably bring in some kind of veteran presence and like a Royce O'Neal or somebody, and you can package guys together. You have a chance to consolidate there. Jeremy Grant provides more of a scoring presence. We already talked about that. But the realistic one in my mind is OG. I think that's who the Grizzlies want. I think that's who the Grizzlies want to go get. My concern is the same concern it's been, which is, okay, are you going to be able to get OG and still bring in a veteran presence and solve for that problem? That is a problem that needs to be solved. And then what are you going to do about keeping him? Like, what are you going to do about keeping him? Or otherwise, he's a rental that for a team that's young and just starting to contend. So
well, he's not completely a rental because he's going to be making 18 plus this season, and then the next season he's going to be making 19.9, so roughly 20 million.
All right, you get 2 years.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, you do have 2 years on him, but what are you giving up? Like, that's the big question. And that's what we have to kind of just sit back and analyze exactly what the Grizzlies are having to give up. So are you okay with giving 3 first-round picks? You can include or not include the Warriors first round, whatever you want to do, right? Mm-hmm. So you have 3 first-round picks. You're going to have to obviously come off of Tyus, and you're going to have to come off of another 3 to 4 million to make that work. Are you okay with Tyus and Zaire, whatever, Tyus and whoever, 4 and 3 first-rounders to get a guy like OG?
Yes.
Okay.
I try and squeeze him for one less pick just so you have it to keep using. But yeah, I would I'd be fine with that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm okay with 3 on that because I do think he does make you a different player. But man, it just makes me nervous. A question that somebody asked, and so this is going to go straight into the fan stuff. Somebody asked, would you be completely caught off guard and just pissed if they somehow moved on from Steve-O this offseason?
Yeah, it would depend on what they bring in. But yeah, I'd be super caught off guard. I don't know if I'd be whether or not I'd be pissed depends on who it is. I would be completely caught off guard because he's so essential to what they do. And what Ja does specifically, right? Like, you talk about building around your best players. There's no better example of building around your best player than putting Steve-O out there on the floor with Ja. So I would be surprised. And I don't think Steve-O is the playoff liability that some might think he is after what happened in their first year in the playoffs. I think he really improved his perimeter defense, which is what was bringing him off the court. So yeah, I would be shocked.
Okay. Yeah, I would be shocked too because I think he is a part of this team. I think he's big for the culture in general, and I think he is somebody who they've gotten him and they signed him for another 2 years for 12.5.
Let's go back to the OG thing.
Okay,
just for a second.
Back. Let's go.
You said 3 first, Tyus, Zaire.
Yes.
For OG.
Yes.
Why I was saying all that stuff last week, because I'm going to defend myself again, was how I was seeing 4 first-rounders plus Tyus plus Dillon Brooks in a sign and trade plus Zaire. And I'm like, I literally don't know who else they have to send to us to come up with the Dillon money after we send Tyus and Dillon to make that work.
That's 30.
And that's ridiculous. If you're going to sign and trade Dillon, you just sign and trade Dillon to Toronto for OG, include the picks, include somebody else if you need to make money work. And then you use Tyus, trade him to somebody else, and get something else out of that. Those are the kind of comments that were driving me crazy, right? It's like, no, we're not going to send double what we offered at the trade deadline when OG was the hottest thing on the market. It's just not the case. Sorry.
All right. And so Edward, we'll hit on Edward's comment here. He's talking about sending Steve-O out as well as Gideon LaRavia. Okay. That could land you DFS, Dorian Finney-Smith, Royce O'Neal, not Shaq, but Royce O'Neal,
Jermaine.
or Jermaine O'Neal.
Deep cut there.
And Sharp.
Do you mean Cam Thomas? Because everybody there was for the Nets, and Shadon Sharp plays for
I don't know,
the Trailblazers.
Yeah. Anyway, so all right, let me just let me share something with you.
Yeah.
Not just no, but hell no. For the simple fact that none of those players do anything for you. Like Royce O'Neal is fine. I like Royce O'Neal, but he's at this point in the Grizzlies he's going to come off the bench. He just would. I don't think he's going to fit in that role. Day'Ron Sharp's who he's talking about. Sorry, I wasn't sure about it either. I don't think we need that. We need to consolidate personally. So if you're doing 3, let's bring back 1. Let's bring back Mikal. Okay. You're not getting that with that package. But why do the Nets want that package? The Nets don't want another guy like Steve-O. Not many people, they love Steve-O, but Steve-O is potentially considered a regular season player. And so I don't think that happens. I think you're going to see less of things happening that are coming back. You're going to see less players coming back. I think you're going to see packages going out, and then you're going to consolidate too. So, and Dak Jenner says
picks.
Yeah.
The Nets are going to want picks. They have a guy they think they can build around in Bridges. I'm still a little skeptical of him being a guy you can truly build around, but they're going to experiment with it, it sounds like. And they're going to want picks or promising young players. Like LaRavia could make sense for them. Outside of that, none of that makes sense to them in my mind. And if you're the Grizzlies, you'd rather give up something like Tyus or LaRavia plus whoever and a bunch of picks to bring back I got Sharp in my head, Cam Johnson. Right? But Steve-O, if you send Steve-O out, you gotta replace him. Like, I'm sorry. We can say that X filled in really well while also saying that he didn't complete them the way Steve-O completed them. Just didn't. Like, John needs that big body out there. He needs that elite screener. The Grizzlies maybe don't need anymore because the half court looks a little bit better, but really thrive with an elite offensive rebounder. You got to bring something back that does that really, really well. And I don't know who that person could be, quite frankly.
Yeah, that's the other thing is like rebounding has been an issue, right? We saw the rebounding last night. It was the Knicks, the Knicks game. They could not grab a rebound, and they were just taken advantage of by Miami, who is the older team, obviously, a team that is completely like just kind of beating up on them in a sense, kind of showing their manliness. But real quick, so this is a question we kind of talked about a little bit. Alan says, thoughts on the free agency, the front office dipping into the tax next year, then out in 24 to avoid repeater tax, then runs as a tax team until they break up the big 3. All right, there's so long, but I will say the simple question: do you think they go into the tax next year for this team?
If they bring back OG Anunoby, I'm not sure it's possible that they don't go into the tax. If they bring him on, it'd be hard to offload the right amount of contracts to do that. There's a chance. I would say they probably want to avoid it, though, because this is the last year before they start paying Jaren, Ja, and Dez, in which case you're going to have a really hard time staying out of the tax in general. So I would anticipate they don't want to go into the tax this season for the simple fact that they're in it after that year pretty much, right? That's if they're all in, especially on guys like OG and Anunoby. So I think they try and avoid it this year. But hey, something I was just looking at that I didn't think about till just now, Bobby Portis Jr. if he wants out of Milwaukee, which is a rumor that I heard around the streets, then that's a guy that fits this team really well, that has an ascending contract that in 2025-26 tops out at 13.4. That's a contract you want. That's a guy you would want. That's a guy that I would love the Grizzlies to go get.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think he fits your team perfectly, right? I don't know how many other people do fit your team better than he does. 1 second, we did get hit with Sean Coleman in my personal text.
Oh, Lord.
He wants to correct me, so I'm going to correct myself. That OG Anunoby is under contract this upcoming season. Next year, he has a player option. So that's
Is that not what you said? I thought you said that.
Maybe not. I don't know. I have it written down as player option. So he is 2 years under contract. The second one is a player option. So maybe I said it, maybe I did. I don't know. But I just want to I want to reiterate it was a player option for the second year. But either way, so it's going to be very hard for the Grizzlies to go into the tax, right? This year, most certainly, I don't think there's any way they can. For the simple fact is, you can't bring on a new contract and go into the tax, right? It has to be from somebody that's already on your team, like an extension. Next season, when they sign Bane, if you already bring on somebody that's in the 20-25 million, then you sign Bane to, 4 years, 100 some, 100 whatever plus million, 5 years, 100 plus million, whatever that number ends up being. You're going to go potentially into the tax at that point. But I don't think this upcoming season you're going to have them going to the tax, because there's nobody that they're going to extend that will make them go into the tax. And so as long as I'm correct on my math and my understanding of that, I don't think there's a way for it to be possible. So, yeah. Anyway, all right, let's get anything else you want to hit on the fans, because I think we hit up a lot about that, and we can go into more about what we are kind of saying and what kind of our thoughts are.
Yeah, no, that's it. I think we both want to talk about the money a little bit.
Yeah. And honestly, this might go into another show completely because there's going to be so many trades, so many conspiracy theories that might come up.
Twilight 901.
Yeah, the trade machine will always be going. One last trade I want to hit on is if you need to trade into somebody who can handle your insurance very well, make sure you call our guy, Zach Jaworski at Zach Jaworski State Farm. You can give them a call at 901-794-3691. If you're looking for homeowners insurance, whether it be renters, automobile, looking for life insurance, the best trade you could make is trading into a guy like Zach and his team. They're people that you can trust. You can also call them a little bit of the Zach Kleiman, right? Zach Kleiman, Zach Jaworski, the Zach Kleiman of the front office. He's executive of the year. He's executive of the year for me always for the Grizzlies. But Zach is a great guy, and his team is incredible. So make sure you give them a chance and trade into State Farm with Zach Jaworski, State Farm, 901-794-3691. All right, let's get into what we are saying. I'm going to let you go off the top and kind of see what in the world you're thinking of and where do you think we should go? What should we do? Floor is yours.
I think we should go get good players. No, I genuinely like I said, I want the Grizzlies to go get OG Anunoby. My concern is when you get a couple years down the road, again, he has a player option. He's going to want to be extended. He's going to outplay that contract. What kind of money is he going to command, and where is that going to put you as a team? Right. And so I was putting these numbers together. This is far from my strong suit. This is not where I thrive. I'm just sort of going off the top of my head what I think, looking at some other contracts. I put him down averaging in that new contract he get around $25 million. You think that's fair? You think that's a little high? You think it's a little low?
What was that number one more time?
$25 million.
Yeah. I think it's easily fair.
Okay.
I think the next contract is probably going to be higher than that.
Well, and see, that's sort of where I'm like, okay, let's say he's $25 million with the chance that I think looking at the new CBA, from what I was reading, the Raptors could offer him up to $29-30 million, right? If he ends up staying over there. So let's say 25. Looking at Bane, I looked around at other contracts around the league. I looked at the Grizzlies contracts, and what I found that I thought was most comparable that we could say is realistic is around an average of 26 a year. That's the same thing Jalen Brunson has for the Knicks right now. And I thought that was probably comparable as far as roles go. Obviously, they don't do it the same way, but as far as the hierarchy on their teams, I think that's probably about the same. If anything, Brunson might be underpaid. But do you think 26 is about right? Do you think he takes a little bit lower? Or do you think he takes a little bit higher?
4 years, 120. The Tyler Hero contract is what he's going to get.
Think he's going to get 30 a year?
I don't think that's 30. I
think it's 4 years, 120.
Right?
4 years, 120. 12 divided by 4 is 3.
Well, then I'm wrong then. I thought it was 27. Hold on. Yeah.
Okay. I can do 27.
So that's what. Oh, it is 30.
27.
I'm sorry. It was a base salary of 27 the first year. That's what I saw. So I apologize. Yeah. I think it's closer to 27. I don't know if he touches 30 yet, because that's obviously that's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. And Ja's deal is going up every year. Jaren's goes down every year, but then you'd have another one in unison going up every year. He ends up making a lot more than Jaren Jackson Jr. at that point too, right? So that's something to keep in mind as far as the Grizzlies and their prioritization of players. But let's say I'm going to stick with 26 million because it's the math I have written down, and we're close enough to keep it there. Yeah. So you got Ja, Jaren, Bane. I looked, I think, 2 years ahead. I don't think I did next year. Maybe it was the year after, because that's when Baines would kick in. That's around 87.4 million between those three guys, which you're paying. That's happening, right? Then I threw in Adams, assuming there is no Adams replacement. That brings him up to just over 100 million. Then you throw in OG at the 25 million. That puts him at 125. And then let's say you still have Clark and Kennard at that point. Those two bring you up to 152.9. The cap is 134. Luxury tax 162. Now that'll
it's
go
going to
up.
raise.
This is next year, right? That'll go up. But let's just play off of what it is this coming year, right? Like it's not going to go up that much. And so you're easily above the cap, but you're not quite into a luxury tax. But that's 7 players. Those are the 7 players I'm saying. I'm assuming the Grizzlies want to keep all these guys. Then you bring in something like all these other contracts you got. You got Zaire, Jake, Kenny, Roddy, who else? I think maybe one more Santi in there. All those other contracts right now, and Jitty bring you up to another 17 million. You're going to come off some of those. So let's say you take it down to 10 million, even 7 million. You're still just below the luxury tax there if you bring it down to even 7 million, right at 160. So 2 million below. And you haven't solved your vet problem. You don't have any new vets there. And so how are you going to do that?
Right.
Like, how are you going to bring that in? That's where I get into the issue with OG Anunoby is, okay, it makes sense for 1 year, but then the player option, which I'm assuming he's going to opt out of because he's going to be able to command more money than that.
I would assume, yeah.
If he's getting up to 25 million, it's like, okay, you can realistically keep 7 good players. Maybe 8.
Yeah. That's the tough part of all this. Like, that's why I always say you should not stop drafting. Okay. The problem is they have no places to put any guys that can be drafted right now. So they have to somehow consolidate. And because a guy like Jitty, who is very important to your team because he kind of gives you a decently high floor as somebody that you can depend on, but he's also been making $6 million after this upcoming season. This upcoming season, he's still on his old contract of $2 million, right? And so it's not a lot. And so if you throw him in a trade, he's not going to warrant a lot. But he can be a guy that some teams might want because he's a guy that honestly they could depend on, and you could kind of have him as your 10, 11, 12 guy, and you're okay with that. But I think it's going to be tough and what decisions they're going to make. But you can't stop drafting for the simple fact that, listen, they've been very good draft. They're drafting really well. They're drafting the guys that can be role fillers on this team. But in 3 years, when you have to have them, you got to have some of these guys kind of getting up to the point where you could actually play them because you're going to need to. And so I don't know. It's going to be a crapshoot, but I'm excited to kind of watch how it unfolds this offseason for sure.
Yeah, and part of that is, quite frankly, who are you going to send that other guys, that other people want? Like, Zaire is far from a polished product, a sure thing. But I bet teams will still say, hey, we'll take the upside on him if they're looking to blow it up. Laravia.
But all those they're sweeteners. Every single one of those is a sweetener.
That's
None of them
saying.
actually matter to the like, because, okay, so look at this. Everybody that I'm about to name makes less than $5 million. And that's Zaire, Desmond Bain, Jake Laravia, David Roddy, John Conchar, Santi Aldama, Xavier Tillman, Kenneth Lofton Jr., Jacob Gilliard. I don't know if he'll be on the team. Vincent Williams Jr., he'll be a two-way guy. Like, every single guy makes less than 5. There's nobody that you could throw in that you're like, all right, cool. Like, we need him to come over. Like, those are all sweetener on a deal.
That's what I'm saying. And so and then when you get into that, I think you can consolidate those contracts and send them to teams like the Raptors or the Nets. I just don't know how you're able to consolidate that many and send them to those teams, right? And at the end of the day, who are you going to get that brings that veteran presence and as an actual contributor that you really need on this team? Like,
hey, you know what I look at when I look around this, when I look around the NBA landscape, as people call it, when I look around, you know what the play-in has done? There's less teams completely tanking. And so there's nobody really blowing it up anymore, because you can be the Lakers and you can have a bad season, somehow make some trades, and as long as you have a couple good players, you can somehow win some games, get into the playoffs, and then potentially make a run. Because at the end of the day, it's just a 7-game series. You just have to be better than the other team in out of the 7 games. You need to win 4 games. That's really what it comes down to. And so now if you look around, who are you trading with? Right? None of these teams are really blowing it up. The Nets, they might be the team that has all these good pieces, but you know what they're saying is we're 1 or 2 guys away from being really, really good, especially in the East, like who has been somewhat down. They're very top heavy right now. And so I think that it's going to be tough, because you might have to send some players around the league, and it might be a 3 or 4 team deal, because maybe they're like, hey, we like this guy, but we really would like your guy better. But I know you don't want our guy, but I think this team over here likes you, like this guy. And I think that's the only way to move some pieces around, because who are you trading with? What, San Antonio? Houston? Like, those are all the teams. And that's a team that I would look at if it was me personally. I would look at a team like San Antonio and try to see if you can go get one of those guys that they have, because they actually are still rebuilding. And I don't know if they're coming out of – they're not going to be good enough before their best players are off of their deals. Like, they're not going to be able to re-sign those guys again, because they're not going to want to be there, because they're not going to be any good unless they can just completely just throw crazy, stupid money at them. And I don't think that happens down in San Antonio. So that's the one team I target. If we're going to just kind of look and see, that's the team I would look at.
Well, and there's a reason that, and I'm thankful for it. These guys have these jobs in the front office and we don't, which is they put together these crazy 3-team deals. They go find these diamonds in the rough. They work these exceptions and these rooms to be able to make sure they're able to make the money work. Honestly, I got a job. I don't have the time to put together all that stuff. So we're not going to get into all that, but I don't want it to sound like all doom and gloom. I think the Grizzlies get an upgrade from Dillon. And that doesn't mean they're going to get an OG Anunoby or a defensive specialist. They're going to get a guy that fits this team better than what Dillon did and fills the role better, and be able to find a way, I think, to consolidate contracts, find vets. I can imagine they don't solve for both those needs, even if it's not the ultimate ideal, what everybody wants is the best solve for both of those needs. But they're going to figure it out. It's just, I think it's worth stating, it's not nearly as cut and dry and straightforward as go get this guy, go make this happen, because there's a lot of things to think about, not just this year, but in the 3-4 years after that coming up.
Yeah, I think that's very good on your point to kind of explain a little bit of the whole reason we even did this, right? The whole reason that we wanted to share a little bit of what we thought maybe the front office is thinking, what the fans are saying, because we know what everybody is looking at. We know the players that everybody wants, right? But also kind of what we're thinking, because this isn't that easy. This is not an easy job, because the Grizzlies are not doom and gloom. They are in a great spot. The problem is the great spot that they put themselves in as a very good young team that is looking to go over the edge, right? They're looking to find a way to get to the playoffs and actually make some noise. They have not been able to, but they also can say, we've never been healthy. And so it's a tough spot for the front office to be in, because they know they need to make the moves, because the later you wait, the harder it's going to be. If they'd have made a move let's say they made a move at the trade deadline and they moved and got Mikal Bridges or OG Anunoby and sent out Dylan. Let's say you include Tyus in that, whoever you want to include in that. This offseason, dude, it's not very hard. Hey, we need to draft one, maybe two good players and just keep the ball rolling. But until they make that first big move to consolidate, this is going to be in the same offseason, the same conversation every single year. But once they make one big move, then I think it kind of makes itself a little bit easier. You draft, you bring up the young, you keep your top heavy pretty much contracts and your salary, your roster, you keep it going. You bring in old, you filter out, and you keep the cycle going. But until they can actually make that first big move, this is the conversations, and this is the off-season conversations we're going to keep having.
I just want crazy eye Bobby Portis now. now that I'm thinking about that and I saw his contract, I'm like, bro, go get crazy eye Bobby Portis. Come on now. He fits his team so perfect, and he's not expensive. Oh, I want that to happen.
Last thing I'll say is my expectations, if I had to give any kind of, hey, I believe this is going to happen, I think we go get a vet point guard. I think we go get some kind of a vet that can actually fill that role that isn't flashy. One guy that I've targeted, he makes $6 million a year. He's on that Nets roster. It's Patty Mills. I don't think Patty Mills is amazing. I think Patty Mills is getting a little bit older, but Patty Mills has won. Patty Mills can do a lot for a guy like Ja Morant. I think he can be a lot for a team that's young and up and coming. And he's also making the same amount of money that Giddey will make next year, right? So that little money, like that $6 million, can actually be attainable. That's what I'm looking for, is if you want to figure out a way to consolidate, that's the way to consolidate, is sending out and getting a guy who's, he's got 2, maybe 3 years left in the league. Not a lot, but he doesn't cost a lot. That's the only other way that you can consolidate some of that young guys, but also bring back a vet, because I think bringing back a vet is super important right now.
Yep, agreed.
All right, that's all we have. It's been fun. I don't know. We haven't talked about next week what we're going to hit on, but we had our biggest show so far for the off season tonight, and so I think that honestly, I think it's just been fun, kind of coming up together and kind of figuring things out, because who knows what this week in the NBA will bring.
Yeah.
But how are you enjoying the NBA playoffs so far as a whole?
Oh, I quit watching. I hate basketball right now.
Really? Yeah, I was
no,
like, God.
I'm just kidding. It's been fun, man. Listen, I think I tweeted out last year, like, everybody should learn to just love basketball, not just your own team, because it makes it a lot more fun. Yeah. And again, everything I put out there is because I learned it myself. I was like, oh, maybe my life would be a lot better if I didn't live and die with this team so much. And so it's fun, man. It's fun seeing these guys go shot for shot and seeing, awesome. I want the Lakers to fail miserably, but at the same time, it is cool seeing guys like step up and play really well. It's cool seeing the Lonnie Walker game, right? And I know we don't love Rui Hachimura here. I think I like him better than you do, obviously, but it's cool seeing these guys step up and have these moments. Melton's playing well for the Sixers. We'll always love DeAnthony Melton. It's fun seeing stuff like that. Not Austin Reeves. F that. Dude's freaking flailing all over the place. Who cares? But it's fun watching, and it's cool to have a couple of fun series. I would say, other than the shot making and the scoring and Nugget Suns, the best single show on earth right now is Jimmy Butler, though. Like, dude, it's just insane. Like, I was like thinking maybe we should tell the Grizzlies to go try and get Jimmy Butler, but it's like that dude is like a Miami Heat for life. He's going to be the new Udonis Haslem.
Yeah, he'll be there forever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's fun. Do you have anything that you're particularly paying attention to?
Honestly, I'm not. We're either getting like terrible games or we're getting really good games. But the series that I've had the most fun with, it's the Denver Phoenix series. Like ever since those guys just kind of went off this last game. And we'll see tonight. We'll see how that goes. But it's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm excited about watching it all. Also, one last thing I will say before we completely end the show is we have our very first Bluff City Bets, the inaugural show. I know if you are a person that bets and if you watch Bluff City Bets, the play of the game with Chase Bobbitt, he has been doing that all year long with the over on Bluff City Bets. But we are now having our first full show. We're going to hit on baseball. We're going to hit on some basketball. We're going to give you a little bit of tips and tricks. But also, if you want to get all of our bets that we're doing already, you can go and join us as as insider for $5 a month. Not much at all. You can do that. We give you'll win more than those $5. I promise you, just by following our bets. But the show should be a lot of fun.
I was going to say, with you and Chase running it, people will definitely win more than what they'll spend to be an insider. If I was out there, it would be not so much. But hey, also to anybody who took those insane lines on the games tonight, congrats, especially if you parlayed them, because Philly would have won on the money line now. And let me tell you, Phoenix is going to cover that 6.5 point spread. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I think so too. One last thing. Do you know who won the Kentucky Derby?
Mage. Also, Daniel Greer by a lot. Congratulations to you, buddy.
I even hit on a trifecta that won me over $400+ I had no idea. It was 50 cents trifecta, whatever the thing was, and it hit. It was awesome.
It must be nice living in a state where you can do that. Hey, here's my nice thing. I got my second colorway this week.
Woo!
I know. It's pretty fresh in person too. This is number 2 out of the 3 I'm gonna
the
get.
Trivia, family trivia.
Yeah, the trivia. They're awesome, man. This one and the light smoke gray, I think I'm gonna snag when it comes out. I promised my wife that was the end of that though. So I intend to keep that promise.
All right. Well, we got to get out of here because we're running up on an hour, and I said we wouldn't go this long. But if you have any suggestions for us, please, give us I guess any kind of a review, a rate. If you want to hit us up, in the DMs at Grizz 901 Podcast, that's great. Whatever you have, anything for us, we'd be more than happy to kind of entertain that and kind of hear your thoughts about how the show's going. We're trying to do a little bit more on the creative side, looking at the artwork design, trying to get that looking a little bit better in this offseason. So you might see it look differently throughout this offseason. We're going to try some different things. The intro is changing. My goal is to get a new intro at some point before this season. And so you might see that kind of adjust. I'm not sure if we're going to completely change it because I think it's kind of us in a sense now. But you also could see new sponsors because our sponsors' times are about to be up. And so we might have to see about getting new sponsors. But there's been a lot of change. There's been some fun things happening. But we're also going to keep making sure we're changing some things to make sure we look good. And as we keep getting bigger, thanks to you all, we'll have a little bit more that we can actually do and try out. So, but that's all we have. Let's have a great rest of the week. It's a Tuesday. Join us back here next Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Tell your friends. It's always live at 8 o'clock on Tuesdays. Be nice and tell your friends.